Okay, after a promising start to the season and still not a horrible season and things aren't terrible. I mean, with losing Nick Chubb and all of those things, the Browns are still afloat. And but there has been a lot of drama surrounding the Cleveland Browns and Deshaun Watson. And so that's what I want to come in here and talk about, because at the end of the day, you have a 2-2 team. You have a 2-2 team that has some tricky but winnable games coming up. It's honestly not a super easy schedule. But for this video, I want to talk about the good news for the Cleveland Browns. And no, it's not that Deshaun Watson is playing. That's not the good news. But we can finally at least see that there's some talk and rumblings that, you know what? Maybe he's more hurt than we initially thought. Maybe people aren't giving up on him as much as we thought. That's all I'm saying. All right. And I think there's some good news at quarterback as well to an extent. But let's first see what I'm talking about. All right. Um, we've got a little bit of an interview here. We've got a little bit of an interview with the offensive coordinator, Alex Van Pelt, and he was vouching for the toughness of Deshaun Watson. You can listen to it yourself if you want, but this injury came off Deshaun Watson's best game, arguably his best game as a Brown. He got hurt in the third quarter, I want to say what it is, but he ended up finishing through it. All right. So that's fine. That's fine. But he was coming off his best game. So it's like, man, we really want this guy to be here. Well, here's what Van Pelt said. He said of Deshaun Watson, he said, I would never, ever, ever doubt his toughness ever. That is not the issue. He's tough as nails. Now, he went and kind of say more than that. They didn't talk about it in this article, but I watched the actual video. He talked about, hey, a running back might clear, he might actually clear medically with a knee injury, but he can't get up to full speed. He can't run full speed. He wouldn't expect that running back to play. And it's the same with Deshaun Watson and his throwing shoulder. He can't just expect him to play. Now, let's be honest, DTR was overmatched in the game. But let's look at what we're talking about with Deshaun Watson's injury. He has what is called a bruised rotator cuff. Okay. Now, I'm not Deshaun Watson. I'm not an NFL athlete, but I've had a bruised rotator cuff. I've had a torn rotator cuff, and the PT for it is a lot. And the thought of doing this is hard. Like, this is hard. This is ridiculously hard. I couldn't even do this 2 months ago. And so, like, when you're talking about these things and when you're talking about the level in which you have to play to be a good NFL quarterback, like, I think sometimes we just hype up so much. You must play hurt. You must play hurt. And it's all of us Brett Favre fans, right? It's people who watch Brett Favre growing up. It's people who watch Peyton Manning. It's people who watched, I mean, maybe not growing up, depending on your age, right? Brett Favre. Watching these quarterbacks, Phillip Rivers, that always gutted it out. But there's another side of this. There's another side of this. There's the side of, okay, great, you gutted it out, but you played terribly because you were at 62%. There's the side of, okay, you gutted it out, you're tough as nails, you played in the game, but it actually was worse for the team because now your shoulder is back and it's just as hurt as it was going into the game, or worse. And now you're going to be out even, or you're going to be ineffective even longer. Like, we see injuries like this all the time. We see it all the time. And I'm not a doctor. I don't know what it means with a rotator cuff. I don't know if you're going to hurt it more, if it's going to reduce the healing time. I don't know. But I know if you're a quarterback and you can't throw the football with any pop, any zip, and you're just hurting, that's not going to be good. All right. So they had a Monday's post-bye bonus practice. PJ Walker is their new number 2 quarterback. PJ Walker, I remember him from, what was it, the USFL. He took that by storm before, or was it the XFL? Before COVID stopped it. It might have been the XFL. Then he eventually started playing with the Panthers for a few games last year, got hurt. He was a starting caliber quarterback. I don't know how fast the offense is going to go. I don't know what that looks like, but PJ Walker is a backup that you can have success with. Here's the problem. You're playing the San Francisco 49ers. You're playing the 49ers. So, yes, it's going to be a difficult game. Nobody has been able to stop the 49ers offense. Nobody. So you look at this, you know it's a tough time. Deshaun Watson's like, man, I wish I could come back. This injury for a bruised rotator cuff is usually a 2 to 6 week recovery window. He's at week 3. I was hoping the bye was at the perfect time so he could play this week. He's just rehabbing. Let the dude rehab. Now, I want to hear your comments on this. I do, because you do not have to agree with me on this. And I don't even know if I agree with me. But I want to be careful with playing, sideline doctor and just saying, oh, we know how bad he's actually hurting. We know what's really going on. And the dude should be healthy and he should be good, because we don't know. Every injury is different. There's a big difference between breaking a finger and playing with it and having a rotator cuff issue. Like, if you have a rotator cuff that's in the wrong spot, like you might have a hitch where you can't even get the ball to your normal motion over the top. His accuracy could be terrible. Could be terrible. I know, coming off mine, it took me forever to throw a football again. It took me forever to throw a football again. And like, that's just kind of the way it goes. And I don't want him to, what's the word I want to say? Compromise, because the human body is phenomenal at compromising, which then usually causes further injury. We've all been there. Look at Aaron Rodgers. I'm not saying this is why he tore his Achilles, but in camp in the summer, he strained his calf. If I'm not mistaken on this, he strained his calf. And I just realized our background is the Sports Talk Detroit background. So sorry, everyone. Hope you can forgive me on that one. There you go. Feel much better with your Sports Talk Extra. As you know, we're Lions fans that love talking NFL football, and we connect with the Browns. We feel like the Browns and the Lions are like the AFC, NFC counterparts. They don't get a lot of national attention, all that good stuff. But what was I saying? Aaron Rodgers, there's the ADD kicking in. Aaron Rodgers strained a calf, and then in the first game, he tore an Achilles. And I'm not saying it's because he was compromising for that calf, but I am saying it could have something to do with it. I've seen so often guys who hurt a knee and then they end up pulling an opposite hamstring, or they hurt a shoulder and then they end up hurting a bicep or something. Like, it happens because we try to compensate for what our body isn't doing, and we try and use other parts of our body to make up for it without even realizing it. So, what are your thoughts? Do you think Deshaun Watson should be playing? Are you understanding of the fact that he is sitting out? Are you in between, or are you one of those guys who's like, look, I'm not going to tell a player if he's tough enough to play or not, because I don't know what he's going through. So let me know what your thoughts are, but at least there's good news that there's somebody in the organization that's vouching for Deshaun Watson. Hopefully that's the feeling of the team, because we've heard other things. We've heard things about how the team might be quitting on him and all that kind of stuff. I'm not ready to believe that just yet. Hang in there, Brownie fans. You got this. See you on the next one.